Okay, so we're diving into a comeback story today, but trust me, it's not the one you're expecting. This is about a dream that just completely shatters right at the finish line, and what happens after that.
You know the setup, right? The classic tale, the aging hero gearing up for one last shot at glory. But what if it all goes wrong? What happens when that triumphant return turns into a total, devastating setback? Well, that's often when the real story, the interesting part, actually begins.
So where does our story begin? It starts with a really personal challenge. Let me introduce you to Tony TNT Torres. He's a martial artist, and his reason for getting back in the ring, well, it had nothing to do with fame or money. It was about something way closer to home.
Now get this, Tony hadn't competed professionally in 30 years. 3 decades. I mean, he had a career, he was earning what he called diaper and Similac milk money, real life stuff. But the actual fight game, he'd been out of it for a long time. So what on earth brings a guy like that back? Well, he goes to his kid's very first martial arts competition. And who does he see there, competing on the mat? His ex-wife's new boyfriend. Oh yeah, and just like that, it's not about the sport anymore. It's about pride. It was about not letting this other guy look like the super dad.
And that was it. That's all it took. The fuse was lit.
Tony decided right then and there that he was getting back in the ring. No way was he going to be overshadowed.
Okay, but look, if you're going to make a comeback after 30 years, you can't just hit the local gym. No, you've got to go back to the source. You call the person who turned you into a fighter to begin with.
And for Tony, that person was his original sensei, the one and only Grandmaster Jerry Fast Feet Fontanes. And this guy wasn't just some coach. They describe him as a living, breathing arsenal of martial arts prowess. I mean, what a title.
And here's the thing. Fontanes wasn't some retired legend just coasting on his reputation. No, he was still at the absolute top of his game. He just won a grand champion title last May. This is the guy who started training Tony when he was 19, and now, all these years later, they were about to team up again in a huge way.
All right, so the training is absolutely brutal. Months and months of prep are done. The comeback? It's finally within reach. And the big competition? It's just 1 week away.
I mean, can you feel that tension? After all that work, after 30 years of waiting, everything is coming down to these last 7 days. It feels like everything is perfectly on track for that storybook ending. So he's in the home stretch. It's just a routine sparring session. Tony throws a head kick, a move he's probably done thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times. But this time was different. And then a snap. Just one sickening sound. And in that single moment, the comeback, the whole super dad mission, all those months of training, everything just came to a screeching, grinding halt.
The diagnosis? It was absolutely brutal. We're not talking about a sprain or a simple tear here. His hamstring muscle had completely severed. Ripped right off the bone. For any athlete, especially a martial artist, that is a catastrophic career-ending injury. The fight was over before it even had a chance to start.
So, what do you do? What do you do when the path you've been working toward just vanishes from under your feet? Well, for Tony Torres, the end of that one dream, it turned out to be the spark for something much bigger.
Think about it. All that energy, all that discipline and passion he'd built up for his comeback, it was suddenly homeless. It had nowhere to go. So he redirected it. He realized he couldn't fight in the sport anymore, so he decided to fight for it, to try and change it from the outside. And you have to see how fast this pivot happened. Just a month after his career-ending injury, his mentor, Fontanes, wins this huge title. What does Tony do? The very next day, he flies him out to Florida to start filming. There was zero time wasted mourning what could have been. It was all about what could be built. And what they started building was Sniper Fight.
So what exactly is Sniper Fight? Well, it's the project that was born directly out of that disaster. It's his answer to all the problems he'd been seeing in the martial arts world for years.
His whole vision really came down to 2 big, pretty revolutionary ideas. First, he wanted to capture the genius of his legendary sensei and put it into an elite online training program. And second, he wanted to build a whole new kind of tournament, from the ground up, one that actually valued the fighters and paid them for their skill.
See, for years, under the traditional model, you had absolute legends. We're talking guys like Billy Blanks and Toki Hill, competing for what Tony calls cheapy, choppy plastic trophies. That's it. Sniper Fight just flips that entire script. They introduced a $2,000 prize pool. They give out high-quality custom medals. It's a huge shift from fighters basically competing for free to fighters being treated like the professionals they are.
But it wasn't just about the prize money. A huge part of the philosophy, and this quote from Ray Torres nails it, was about the show itself. You know, winning is awesome, but you also have to entertain the crowd. It had to be exciting for the fans watching, not just a technical clinic for other fighters.
So what are you actually getting on sniperfight.com? You're getting the arsenal of martial arts prowess himself, Jerry Fontanes, breaking down, well, everything. We're talking mindset, advanced techniques, and even the nitty-gritty details like understanding regional fighting rules, like where groin kicks are legal and where they're not. It's about teaching fighters how to think, not just how to punch and kick.
So when you look at the whole picture, Sniper Fight isn't just a website or a tournament. It's what happens when a totally crushing disappointment gets transformed into a powerful, innovative new force for an entire sport.
Which kind of leaves us with this one big question, right? Tony Torres set out to win the single fight, basically for his own pride, and he failed, spectacularly. But in that failure, he might have just launched something that could change the fight game for everybody. So, can a single setback really spark a revolution? In this case, it absolutely looks like it might.